everybody. Welcome to the world of African ideas. Thank you for coming once again. I'm always very excited to see you. And as you know, my name is Yaa Koko. Here in the world of African ideas, you discover great people, great places, great things and inventions, great foods, and even great animals in the ecosystem, but best of all, great ideas to come out of Africa and that are connected with Africa. Are you excited to be in my world?
Yes, Yaa Koko.
I'm so glad to have you. So, as you know, in the world of African ideas, we begin every visit with a game. Do you remember the game I taught you when you visited me last?
Yes.
Great. So we're going to play it a second time. Name, place, animal, object, and food. Exactly. So, are you ready?
Yes.
Give me a name, an African name that begins with the letter B.
Babatunde.
Do you know what it means?
No, but it's a Yoruba name.
Good. Any other person?
Balao.
I love that. Babatunde, correct, is a Yoruba name. And it is a name given to a son who is born in the family after the death of a father or perhaps even the grandfather. So it means that father has come again. And it basically represents the belief that Nigerians and many Africans have about reincarnation, that the spirits of the ancestors have come back through children again. I also like the example you gave of Babalawo. It's not a name as much as it is sort of like a position of some people in African society. And basically, people who practice traditional medicine, the title given to them amongst the Yorubas are Babalawos. So it's referring to those people who practice traditional medicine. People go to them for healing, for prayers, and whatnot. So thank you for sharing those, examples with me here in my world. I want to share a very special name with you. Do you know what that name is?
Bimbo.
No, but Bimbo is another name that
Bola.
starts with B. Bola. There are many names, and you're calling a lot of Yoruba names, and this one is also another Yoruba name. It is Balogun. Balogun.
Warrior.
Yes. Balogun is a very popular name amongst the Yoruba people in Nigeria, West Africa. And essentially, the name represents great warriors, great commanders of armies. In ancient African society and African Yoruba society especially, Baloguns advised kings around war and military aggression. Baloguns led armies to fight against aggressors and against enemies. Baloguns signified people of courage, people of bravery, and they were the greatest warriors in the land. In modern times, we still have people bearing the name Balogun, and many families bear the name Balogun. And it essentially represents that people in their lineage once led armies or once advised kings around military activities. So it is a very honored and revered name amongst the Yoruba people. Whenever you meet anybody bearing Balogun, now you know what it means and what it represents. So thank you for playing that game with me. Now we move on to another exciting part of your visit, where I get to tell you a story about a great African king or queen. Today I'm focusing on a queen. Last time you visited, I taught you about a great African king. Who was that king I taught you about?
Mansa Musa.
Mansa Musa, and he was a 14th century king of Mali, the great Mali Empire, and also the wealthiest man in the world at one point in history, right? Today we're going to talk about another revered ruler, a queen, Queen Idia. Have you heard about Queen Idia?
Yes.
Okay, let me tell you a little bit about Queen Idia. Queen Idia was a reputable queen in the ancient Benin Kingdom. The Benin Kingdom was a revered kingdom in ancient Africa, powerful, highly respected for its culture, its military, and its great innovations. Queen Idia plays a huge role in the rise and ascendancy of the Benin Kingdom. But let's go far back to when she was a young girl. Idia was a beautiful girl who loved to dance and was always social. And one day, King Ozolua was visiting the market and saw this pretty girl dancing. And he sighted her and desired her and decided to marry her. That was how Idia joined the palace as one of the wives of King Ozolua. Although some people say that she was a queen's consort. In other words, he didn't marry her the right way and whatnot, and she was just, in the palace. But anyways, she was a loved, wife of King Ozolua. But Ozolua had had a son already before Idia had her own child. Idia had a son called Esige, right? And there was always tension between Esige and the other son that already King Ozolua had, Aharuan. Now, when King Ozolua died, there was tension because who would become the next king? Esige wanted to be king, and Aharon also wanted to be king. So there was a conflict, which led to a civil war because Esige decided to fight his brother Aharon for the throne of the Benin Kingdom. Idia, as the lovely mother of her son, began to advise her son. Mind you, in ancient Benin Kingdom, the king ruled with the support of great chiefs, palace chiefs, and kingmakers. And Idia understood that for her son Esige to be legitimately crowned king, he must have the support of the palace chiefs and kingmakers. So she began to visit them one by one, to talk to them and to negotiate with them, and to make deals and to convince them that her son Esige should be the rightful king of the Benin Kingdom, that the gods approved of her own son. Because in Benin Kingdom, a king was not just a political ruler, but was also believed to be a spiritual ruler. In other words, he was the chosen one by the gods. So Idia began to convince them that Esige is the one that the gods have chosen. Esige is the one, and she visited the palace guard chiefs and advisors one after the other. And also, Idia began to give Esige clues. Because in Benin Kingdom, a king, before he would be chosen, had to prove that he had the ears of the gods. And one of the ways they did that was that they would give the king a bird, and the king would be asked to send a message to his fathers, his father who has crossed over to the other, afterlife, to send a message to his father. And whatever the father sends back, or if the father responds back from the afterlife, then that is the person that the gods have chosen. So Idia advised her son, don't do what a typical person who is vying for the kingdom would do. Don't say, oh, fathers, come and make me king. Don't say, fathers, come on. Instead, say, fathers, help me to rule the kingdom well. That is what will please the kingmakers. And so when the two sons were given the birds and asked to write a message and tie it on the birds, Aharon made the mistake of saying, Father in the afterlife, come and help me, help me become king. But Esige did something that his mother advised. He wrote to his father in the afterlife and said, Father, come and help me rule the kingdom well. So when the birds flew and the chiefs caught the birds and read the message, they were pleased with Esige's message. Because Esige's message showed that he was more interested in ruling the kingdom well in a way that would benefit all the people in the kingdom and all the subjects. But Aharon's message showed that he was more selfishly interested in just becoming king. And so the kingmakers decided that Esige is the one that the gods have chosen. And that was how Esige was approved and chosen to become the next king. But Esige had to fight his brother, and his mother advised him, and he won that conflict, and soon the Benin Kingdom became his kingdom to rule, and he assumed the throne. That was the first victory that Esige won. But his kingdom and his reign was going to be marred by many other conflicts, because surrounding them was the Igala kingdom. Igala in modern-day Kogi state was a great tribe in ancient African society that was also known for great warriors and great military prowess. And the Igalas wanted to conquer the Benin Kingdom because, mind you, Benin Kingdom was now a bit, because they had just fought an internal conflict between the two brothers, so they were a bit weak. So the Igalas wanted to take advantage of that to conquer Benin and take over their territory. But Idia rose up. And Idia, after Esige became king, was given her own palace And she was given her own title, Iyoba, the first Iyoba in the history of Benin Kingdom. Because in Benin Kingdom, the mothers of the kings were always sent away so that they would not have any influence over the king, and so that the king would be able to rule ruthlessly and with great might. But they knew that if the mothers were there, we all love our mothers. You listen to your mothers. They knew therefore that the king would be subject to the advice of his mothers. So they always wanted the mothers to disappear when the king assumed the throne. But Isige loved his mother, and he treasured her advice and her counsel above all others. So Isige said, no, my mother will not be sent away. Rather, I will put her in her own palace and I will give her her own title. So Idia, by virtue of that decision of Isige, became the first ever mother of a king to assume her own political position in the Benin Kingdom, the revered position of Iyoba in Benin Kingdom. And so when the Igalas began to threaten her son, Idia stood up in defense of her son. She began to conduct rituals to fortify the army of Benin, the warriors in Benin. And then she will stand and talk to them that the gods are supporting you, the gods are behind you, go and fight, you will win. She pumped up their courage. She made them believe that the gods would protect them in any warfare. And so Benin warriors were very confident, very brave. They feared nothing. They were fearless. Another thing that Idia did, when the Igalas came and it was time for direct confrontation, Idia led in front. She was a symbol that the gods were with the warriors. Idia did not stay in the palace so that her son made for her. She followed them to the war front. She held the symbol of the gods and told the warriors, shouting in the middle of the war front, go and fight, the gods are with you. Idia also advised the warriors to capture tigers and leopards and release it during the war, because tigers and leopards were a very symbolic animal in ancient Africa. They were believed to be the animals that the gods entered. So if they sighted a tiger or a leopard, they believed that the gods were present. So when Idia asked the warriors to capture and release the leopards during warfare, the Igalas believed that the gods were supporting the Benin warriors, and the Benin warriors also believed that the gods were there present to support them. Do you know what that did for them? It gave them more courage. It pumped them up with more faith in themselves, and they began to fight fearlessly until they defeated the greatest army ever, the Igala kingdom. And that was how Benin took over that entire territory, and the empire spread and began to grow. And Isige, when he now had peace from his enemies, began to do a lot of reforms in Benin Kingdom. Isige started trading with the Portuguese. He expanded the trading networks of Benin Kingdom. Benin was trading in many items, from coral beads, different items, to art and brass and bronze figures. He also empowered the artists to begin to design different statues. The Guild of Artists were now known for multiple statues and bronze figures. People came from all over the world to come and see and sight and buy Benin bronze statues. Isige was also trading in ivory. And so Benin Kingdom was so rich. The military and the army was so strong. And Idia's influence was so great that even the artists began to design masks and ivory figures and statues after Queen Idia. That is why today, Idia's statue, the ivory mask, is the statue that Nigeria used in Festac. Have you ever heard of the Festac celebration? The Festac celebration was a great celebration of Nigeria's independence. And one of the symbols that Nigeria displayed during that festival was the mask of Queen Idia, representing how powerful Idia was in ancient African and Nigerian history. That is an example of a woman who was brave, a woman who was courageous. And Idia also proves that women in African society held the highest political positions, that women proved themselves to be great leaders, to be fearless, to be great advisors. And because of Idia's advice, her son built one of the greatest empires that Africa has ever witnessed today. Did you enjoy that story?
Yes.
What do you like about Queen Idia?
I like that she was very brave, and that she didn't just choose to stay in her palace when there was war, but she decided to go and fight with her warriors.
I agree completely, because she could have easily prayed for them and sent them off. But she said, no, my presence is also important. Because of how I have come to represent the gods in their eyes, if I am there with them on the battlefield, they will feel as though the gods are with them. And so Idia left her comfort zone, where she was protected, to come and face the same risk that the warriors faced. That is a sign of great courage and great bravery. And I think it's something that all children should embrace and continue to emulate.
Thank you for playing my favorite African game with me. Now let's find the other items in the game, starting with an African place that begins with the letter B. Banjul. Yes, Banjul. Banjul is the capital city of the Gambia, a small country in West Africa that was once colonized by the British. Banjul sits where the Gambia River meets the Atlantic Ocean, making it a very important trading port. Banjul City is the political and commercial nerve center of the country Gambia. It is full of life, with colorful markets, bustling streets, and the sounds of boats and ferries on the river. Would you like to visit Banjul?
So that's another interesting part of today. I want to now move on to something special, something that we always do in the world of African ideas, which is an African proverb. Exactly. And you remember what proverbs are? Do you? Well, proverbs are words of wisdom. You want to give it a try? Yes.
Proverbs are words that guide you to do good things.
You're very correct, Olamu.
And to be wise.
Exactly. So they are words of wisdom that African fathers and mothers pass on to the next generation, but they are told in a story-like fashion, or we don't say it in the exact way that the words mean. We say it in roundabout ways. That's why they are called proverbs. So today we're visiting Ethiopia to learn about a special proverb from there. And guess what it says? If a man is born in a stable, he does not become a horse. But if he lives long in the stable, he will behave like a horse. Can anybody tell me what that means?
Yaa Koko.
Let me take Jamiloju.
It means that
Yaa Koko.
does not matter where you're born. It's about the people around you.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Do you want to add to that?
Yes. It doesn't matter wherever you were born, or it doesn't matter where you were born, but the people that surround you, or the ideas and cultures that surround you shape what you become.
Thank you. Both of you are so brilliant. That's very correct. I think this proverb is saying essentially what you've shared, that the circumstances of our birth don't define us, but the choice of who surrounds us and the kinds of habits and rules and experiences that we agree to live in and to shape us is what will determine how we behave. So ultimately it's our choice. Because a lot of people feel like, oh, they're victims. Oh, it's not my fault. I was born into this. I was born this way. I was born that way. Ethiopians are sharing through this proverb that no. Every day that we decide to keep the wrong friends, to stay in the wrong environment, to watch the wrong things, we are making a choice to behave in a wrong way. So it is ultimately in our control to determine how we behave in life. I think that's a very powerful proverb. Do you guys agree? I think so. So let's be careful the kinds of friends we keep, the kinds of places we go to, the kinds of things we expose ourselves to. They will shape how we behave in life. Thank you very much.
Next, let's find an African animal that begins with the letter B. Baboon. Yes, a baboon is one of the largest monkeys in the world and spends most of its time living on the ground. Baboons are found in many parts of Africa and also in some areas of the Arabian Peninsula, where they live in forests, grasslands, rocky hills, and savannas. Baboons are easy to recognize because they have a long dog-like snout, strong jaws, and very large teeth. They are very clever animals and often live together in large family groups called troops, where they help, protect, and care for one another. There are 5 main kinds of baboons in the world, and each of them are found in different parts of Africa. They have different colors and features. Baboons are very important animals in nature, and they keep the ecosystem balanced. Would you like to see a baboon?
Now, I want to tell you something very special. Last week, you visited and I told you the story about a great king who was also the wealthiest man on earth at a point in time. I have studied the life of Mansa Musa, and I want to share with you some of the things that his life example sets for children about financial literacy. For him to have become the wealthiest man in the world, he had a certain way of interacting with money and wealth. And I think that if you and I expose ourselves to that same thinking, we too could be on the way to becoming very wealthy individuals, and maybe one of you could one day become the wealthiest person on earth. Would you like to be the wealthiest person on earth? Yes. You would. I will hold you to that. So Mansa Musa, I noticed something about him. He understood that money is a tool. Money is a what?
Tool.
A tool. Do you guys know what a tool is?
Yes.
What's a tool?
Something that a tool is something that you use like in our daily activities.
Yes.
A tool is something that you use to help.
To help you, I agree. We use it in our daily activities, we use it to help us, and we use it to complete tasks. You want to do a task and you need a tool to help you carry out that task so that it can be done effectively, right? Yes. So there are different kinds of tools. And Mansa Musa understood that once you live in the physical world, right? In the physical world, you need something as a tool to help you accomplish goals, to help you carry out tasks, to help you survive. And one of those great tools to carry out your tasks in life and to complete your goals is money. Money. Have you ever seen a farmer go to the farm without his tools?
No.
Have you ever seen a teacher go to class without tools? No. Exactly. But some people come to the world and don't have any interest in acquiring the tools that they need to carry out tasks and to carry out their goals in the world. So that's why money is important. We need to appreciate that money is a tool, right? And to complete tasks, you need to have tools. So it has to be something that we are interested in acquiring, money as a tool. Not to fall in love with money, because we don't fall in love with tools, but we need to have them, right? So we have to have, Mansa Musa understood that if he was to be able to build his kingdom to be great, to help his people and all the subjects of the Mali Empire, to help other people in the world, like when he visited Mecca and he was giving out gold to different people all over the kingdoms he was passing, he knew that he needed the tool of money as an instrument to do that. So he always understood very early that money is a tool. Children, in the world of African ideas, we want to emphasize to you that money is a what? Tool. It will help you complete your tasks. It will help you pursue your goals. It will help you survive, thrive, and improve your community around you. So you need to acquire money as a tool. Not to fall in love with the tool, but to appreciate it and respect it as something that you need as an instrument to move up the ladder of life. Now, what are we going to do when you go home to show that you understand money is a tool? I'm going to give you an assignment. When you go back home, I want you to write down in your jotter or your journal 3 ways that you can use money as a tool in your life. Maybe it's to buy things that you like. Maybe it's to give people that you want to help. I don't know what it means to you. But can you write 3 ways that you will use money as a tool? Will you come and share that with me during your next visit? You will? I will look forward to that.
Next, can you think of an African food that begins with the letter B? I know! Boli. Boli, also called Bole in some parts of the south region of Nigeria, is a delicious and popular street food made from roasted plantain. The plantain can be roasted when it is ripe and sweet or unripe and slightly firm, giving it different but tasty flavors. To make Boli, the plantain is placed over hot charcoal or fire and slowly roasted until the outside becomes golden brown and the inside is soft and smoky. It is often enjoyed with groundnuts or spicy pepper sauce or even grilled fish, making it a filling snack or a small meal. The word Boli itself comes from the Yoruba people, but today, people across different cultures in Nigeria also enjoy this delicious street food. Would you like to taste Boli soon?
And finally, I want to share something special that I kept for you. Who can guess? Okay. Yes, Dolamo.
African model.
Role models, yes. Whenever you visit me, I always tell you about great people. I have a special person I want to share with you today. Do you know this person? Anybody know her? You do? Okay, what's her name?
Her name is Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala.
Correct, yes. This role model for today that I'm introducing you to is called Dr. Mrs. Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. She's a Nigerian, but she's a world-famous economist. And she is the first African and first woman to ever become the Director General of the, yes?
World Bank.
Not the World Bank, but close. The World Trade Organization. The World Trade Organization. This is the first African and the first woman to ever become the Director General, that is the great boss and leader of the World Trade Organization, an organization that helps to regulate all of the world's trading activities. It is a very special feat and makes her a very great role model that many African children should aspire to be like. Thank you for coming to the world of African ideas. I hope you enjoyed your visit because I really loved having you with me. Do you have any questions for me today? No. Okay. Any thoughts you want to leave behind for me? Yes, Dolamo.
What I know about Ngozi is that some people they didn't like her because she was a woman and she was like the big boss. So they kidnapped her mother, but the mother came back.
Wow, very smart boy. You're very correct. Before she became the Director General of the World Trade Organization, she was once the Minister of Finance in Nigeria. And when she was the Minister of Finance, she introduced a lot of reforms that many unscrupulous people did not like. So to intimidate her, you're very correct. They kidnapped her aged mother. Her own dear aged mother was kidnapped by these very criminal elements. But God was good and kind, and God saved her mother's life. And Ngozi refused to be bullied into resigning her role as the finance minister of Nigeria. She stood her ground and she stood on her reforms, and Nigeria experienced a great amount of improvement during her time as the finance minister. And some of the values that she represents that all of us should strive to embrace in our own lives.
And finally, do you know an object made in Africa that starts with the letter B? I know one. Balafon. Balafon, also called the wooden xylophone. The balafon is a traditional West African percussion instrument made of wooden keys and gourd resonators. Gourd also stands for calabash, remember? It is mounted over gourd resonators, and its tuned hardwood keys produce a resonant buzzing tone central to Mande and other regional music traditions in West Africa. The balafon originated around the 12th century in the Soso Kingdom, which is present-day Mali and Guinea. However, it is widely used in Mali, Guinea, Burkina Faso, and surrounding regions today. It is the cornerstone of ceremonial and contemporary African music. I like to dance to the balafon.
That's it for today, guys. I can't take any more questions, but I'm so glad that you're so curious about these incredible role models. Maybe next week we can talk a little bit more about the next role model that I'll share with you.
Thank you, Yaa Koko.
Thank you.